Hi, my name is Lisa Martin. I am the mother of a child with special needs. He has Fragile X syndrome. In many respects, he has been my teacher. He has made me be a more caring, compassionate, better human being. What we have learned together on our journey, I have realised the difficulties and challenges that parents of special needs children face are wide and varied. During my years of facilitating courses for parents and professionals, I have met some wonderful people who have shared with me their stories of great joy and sadness, who have experienced the good, the bad and the ugly of all aspects of life bringing up their special children. I am passionate about empowering parents who are dedicated in helping their children with additional needs. You're invited to my podcast. I will be talking about all things in our special world of disability and additional needs. I will be interviewing other parents of children with special needs, as well as professionals and people in the community who are offering services that help. Sometimes these podcasts might touch an emotional nerve and upset you. Other times they might fill you with joy and empower you. I don't mean to make you angry or upset, but we need to get a wider audience listening and talking about disability. Only when this happens, I believe disability won't be feared as it is today. Hi, A. Welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Thank you for wanting to share your story with us, because it's a real interesting one. You've got 4 children, all with additional needs, which must be really, really tough at times. And you're currently going through an assessment to see if you've got a diagnosis as well.
Yes.
So let's start at the beginning, and let's think about your children. So your oldest, N, is 15, and he has a diagnosis of ASD, hasn't he?
Yes, and has had that from he was 4, reception age. Yes. They did assess him and say no the first year, and then they reviewed him the year after and diagnosed and realised that I was very accepting, as I knew something was there. I was very young at the time as well when I had him. I had him at 17. So he was diagnosed about 4 years after he was born, as we say. So he literally was I was about 22, I think, when he was diagnosed.
Right, and what were the traits? So what were the things that seemed noticeable to you?
Lining up cars, covering his ears all the time. He didn't really talk, he just screamed, shouting. A lot of people didn't want to babysit him, but not giving reasons why. So I sort of just kept my child to myself, should we say. So I took him to the doctors and just obviously said, I think there's something there, or not there, should we say, whichever way. And then they assessed him, as I say, and put him through, the course of the weight. And basically it was basically when he was diagnosed, it was a lot better for me, easier, he got help. So, like I say, the earlier diagnosis, the better. Because then there's more help out there and there's more but on why they do certain things, rather than just people thinking that your child's rude. He got a lot of that sort of people just thinking he was naughty or rude.
And then your second child, Zed.
Yes.
She's 13, isn't she?
Yeah.
And you thought she might have ASD as well, didn't you?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about Zed.
Zed. She basically, has been the challenge of my life, should we say. She basically, there's 2 years between N and Z. So she's really impulsive, she's kind of defiant and doesn't like to listen. Well, you would class it as doesn't like to listen, but I think it's more she doesn't know how to behave. She doesn't know how to behave, sort of like she doesn't really know when she's being rude or when she's doing something that she's not meant to be doing, and this went on for a long time. Her just harassing her older brother for the sake of just a reaction. So from she was about 4, I did mention it to her nursery school teachers, and they sort of said no, they don't think so, because she's very articulate. I think there's sort of a barrier where they think because you can sort of read and write that you haven't got any difficulties, which needs to be changed. So she went through school sort of just being labelled as naughty, the naughty child, including even family members sort of just saw her as very naughty and didn't want to even kind of associate with her. So that was stressful.
Did you think your parenting skills was being shown to be that you weren't doing the right parenting skills?
No, they more put it down to her copying her brother.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I
what
see.
they put it down to, her copying her brother's behaviour, and I did have to explain to them that she is nothing like her brother. She's just complete opposite. And yeah, so that's when they did put her for an assessment when she was in year 4. I think, was it year 4? Yes, an EP, educational psychologist, if I'm correct, came to see her at school and just basically said there's nothing really there. And that's when in year 6, I think they assessed her again and just said that she's underachieving due to lack of concentration, but couldn't put a reason why she wasn't concentrating, sort of. So it took for when she reached year 7, I mentioned it to the Senko at the secondary school. She said she'll keep an eye on her behaviour and her. And was it the following year? So at this moment in time, she is in year 8. She was diagnosed this year, January. So January 19, born 2006. And I obviously thought that she had something there from a very young age, and she was basically kind of underachieving for the whole of primary school due to them just assuming it was her brother's behaviour she was copying.
Wow, so that's taken a really long time, hasn't
Yes, very long time, but I was persistent and basically I had to get her, well, not diagnosed, but I knew something was there. I needed help because it started to get to the stage of like being so stressful that I wanted to actually kind of hand her over to social services and things like that, because I just didn't know what else to do. I diagnosed her myself just so I could deal with her behaviours and why she does things, rather than, just not knowing what's happening. So yeah, it was really
When you
awful.
say diagnosed her yourself, do you mean you Googled everything and kind of came to the conclusion? Yeah, because as parents, that's what we do, don't we? Because we just have to Google everything.
Yes, basically.
So
thank God for Google.
Yeah, you're right. So why do you think it took so long for her to get this diagnosis, with the experts?
Girls are normally sort of, I think, more under the carpet, as in, when I say under the carpet, they don't present as obvious as boys. And they sort of assume, a lot of people assume, oh, girls can't be autistic, or, they've just never heard of it. It's normally boys. It's more, I think that's more down to statistics and just knowledge and the amount of information that is around.
So she's got the diagnosis of ADHD, that's correct?
Yes, finally.
But you think that she might still have ASD as well, is that
I think
correct?
she may have ASD traits, like I must say, now that she's been diagnosed January this year and she is on medication, she has been a lot more attentive. she is focusing a lot more. Her grades are a whole lot better. She's like, rather than getting all these debits, she's getting credits and green tables on her, like her school reports, rather than reds and ambers. At one point it was really awful. I was getting calls from her when she was in year 7. I was getting calls like every other day from her form tutor, just saying she's been rude, she's done this, or she's walked out the classroom because of this.
Wow.
So yes, yeah, being diagnosed and now being on medication, her behaviour's improved.
Oh, what relief. You
Yeah.
must feel really relieved,
Yes.
do you?
It's a
Yeah.
big weight off my shoulders, because she was really getting to the stage of hard to handle, and I didn't know what else I was going to do.
And is her behaviour much better at home as well?
Yes.
With your other children and
Yes,
everything
with her
as well?
siblings, exactly. With me, not so argumentative. She now doesn't cry when she gets told no for food at the age of 12. So obviously, yes. Yeah, more regulated, should we say.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really pleased for you, eh? So then you had twins, didn't you?
Yes.
M1 and M2.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about them.
So M1 has autism. He is a boy. The twins are 3 years old. Michael more just didn't talk for a long time. He was very delayed in, should we say, most areas. Walked at the age of 2, and yeah, should I say, was very delayed, very quiet, just very kind of withdrawn. He wouldn't take his coat off at one point, or his hat, when he went places. He didn't like going anywhere. He didn't like leaving the house. He didn't like putting on clothes. He would just scream and cover his ears. So Michael's come a long way from where he was. He now talks a couple of words, sentences at that, actually.
So you must have knew that he had ASD
Very early.
from
Yes.
early on, from your experience of
Yeah.
having your older children.
Yes, yeah, very early. So before he started nursery, when they start, is it about 2? I think about 2 years old they start the nursery. I mentioned it to the Senko there, so like they would at least like just keep an eye out and observe him. And yeah, they, within like a week of him starting, were on the same page, which helps. That, you know, you've got someone that kind of thinks along the same lines as what you're thinking, rather than trying to point other things out or just say no and not help you at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were very helpful. And he got put on the assessment waiting list sort of thing, and within him being, he was seen at speech and language a few times, couple sessions, and then they said they will fast track his autism assessment. So normally I think it's about a year's waiting or so. He literally waited about 3-4 months, if that, and he was diagnosed straight away. Yeah, which I was waiting for, you know.
Yeah.
Having a diagnosis of autism is not the end of the world. It's basically the beginning of a new world, should we say, and a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you get
Well, you
help.
can get the support, can't you? And you know, with all the experience of your older children as well,
Exactly.
you're used to all of this now. So
Yes.
So tell me about M2.
M2, she is the twin of M1, and she has epilepsy. She was diagnosed with epilepsy when she was just over 1. Her first seizure happened when she was 10 months old though, but they sort of diagnosed it as myoclonic jerks, so they kind of misdiagnosed it. Didn't happen again for a while after that, and then that's when it happened, but it was different, the seizure, so it presented different, because she's got absent seizures, So it's more like the focal part of the brain, I think, the temporal lobe, where she sort of just freezes and stands there and pauses, like someone's pressed the pause button, and then she snaps out of it. So it's kind of scary. It's very different to, standard sort of normal fitting seizure where you kind of fall to the floor and shake. So it can be misjudged. You would think she's daydreaming. I've had to do research on it myself to know that's the one she has. So she's when they scanned her brain, like on the MRI, they did say that the left side of her brain's abnormal. With what that's supposed to mean, I don't actually fully know yet. She doesn't have seizures very, very often, but they are in clusters when they happen. So it would be for about a week or two that they last for, and then they just stop for about 4 months, 5 months, and then come back again. I do think she has ADHD as well. She is very irate, very erratic, very non-stop. She's always hurting herself. She's always falling over. She's falling off of things that are big enough to sit on that you shouldn't really just fall off of. But other than that, she's a healthy, happy child, should we say. She's on medication for the epilepsy, and she was assessed for ADHD, but they think as she's kind of young, they'll sort of just give her a little bit of time. So in about 6 months, they're going to reassess her. Other than that, it's more, she's kind of bouncing off the walls. She's getting more impulsive. I think sooner than later she needs a diagnosis.
When she has the cluster of the absences,
yes.
Does that affect her? Does that, is she a bit different after them after a little while?
Yes, she is. She's very disorientated.
Yeah.
She comes across like she doesn't know where she is.
Yeah.
She's like, she remembers things. It's like she hallucinates.
Yeah.
She sees things that are not there. At one point she thought like there was snakes on her bed, things like that. This was after her seizures, but then the midazolam that she has after a seizure, if the seizure lasts longer than 5 minutes, you give midazolam 1 dose in 24 hours of it, then the ambulance should be called. Whereas the midazolam can cause people to hallucinate as well.
Right.
So yes, I've noticed maybe that's where after the seizures, when she's had the midazolam, she's not herself. She's like running into things. She's literally on 100 or 1,000, should I say. She's like, she's really dangerous, as in danger to other people as well as herself, when she basically is running about after a seizure.
That must be so worrying for you when she's gone through all of that, because you're a dab hand at dealing with the ASD now.
Yes.
But then when she came along, and then it's something else which is completely new to you, like the epilepsy. Did you have to have training on how to help her when she is having absences?
Actually, now that you've said that, no, there isn't training. Well, maybe there is training, but I've not been told about it.
Really?
No, it's just knowledge by what I've seen her doing, and obviously the ambulance persons when they come, the paramedics, just by watching them and listening from what some of them have said, from what they've seen over their experience. And that's it really. I got training to do with seizures as when I did first aid, but they just cover certain areas of everything. They just cover the areas of everything. So seizures were included, on how to turn someone to this on their side and stuff. But like I say, her seizures are not like that. So there is no turning her on her side if she's standing and she's frozen. So this is why when I leave her with anybody, I have to sort of tell them everything about her. She needs a passport. I think really, I think actually she should have a communication passport.
Yeah, for sure.
She needs one because all those things should be in it because of how her seizures are.
Yeah.
Because they don't present, you wouldn't know she's having one.
Yeah.
She could be in the playground playing and it will happen. And you would only know unless you call her and she's just standing there with her back to you, but you wouldn't know. You would think maybe she's just not listening until you realise, it's quite dangerous.
So what do you do? Do you just kind of like gently walk her to somewhere safe?
Once she's come round, you can't actually physically move her when she's
really?
froze. Yeah,
Right.
because she can't step. It's
Okay.
like you would push her and she'll probably fall on her face.
Right.
Because she's like stiff like a board. But it's like, if someone's thrown like a freeze ball at her or like literally put her on pause, she just freezes. Sometimes her eyes are moving left to right, kind of. And then after about a couple seconds, she'll gasp and come out of it. Then she's back to kind of reality-ish, and you have to reassure her on where she is, and
So you've literally just got to stand there and wait for her to go through it.
Yes.
And that must make you feel really helpless at the time,
Exactly.
does it?
And then she comes round saying, "Oh, it's scary, it's scary, it's scary." So I've had to add myself to an epilepsy group on Instagram and Facebook where adults are, where they've explained to me her epilepsy because they're going through it.
Right.
Because she can't fully tell me. So this is how I've educated myself, by talking to other epileptic people.
And plus that's a great way of having a support group as well, isn't
Yes.
it? Like a support network.
Yep.
Because as parents we have to, that's really important for us to have a support network.
And
isn't
an
it?
understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
people that do understand.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, so you've got loads on your plate, haven't you?
Yes.
So you started coming to a charity-run organisation to do courses, didn't you?
Yes.
To meet other parents and to also find other ways in how to support your children better, as in like visual support and doing 10-week programs,
gaining more
developmental
knowledge,
movement play and things like that, didn't you?
Yes.
And then is this when you started learning about ASD more and about the sensory processing more and things like that, you started thinking that you might have ASD yourself, didn't you?
Yes.
Or was it ADHD or one or the other?
Yeah, exactly. Or something there, basically one of the two. Because they do kind of, should we say, overlap.
Yeah.
In certain areas, obviously. But for me, it was doing the Strengthening Families course, where they sort of bring you all the way back to when you're newborn, should we say, to your childhood, and what you remember and things like that. Basically, just thinking of things like, okay, that was kind of like me, why I never really played with children when I was younger. I used to actually fight a lot of people, probably out of just frustration. I was verbal. So I basically thought, I think I do have ADHD. I'm very impulsive, I'm very erratic. Basically what all my two girls are, actually. So I'm asking them most of the time, I don't know what's wrong with you or why you're like this. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's probably you, as in me. So I've been to the doctors. They did say, when I first went there and mentioned that I think I have autism, they did say there's not really any sort of support, or they don't diagnose anymore, kind of I don't know if it's just Haringey, adults with autism. So I just thought, what does that mean? Like, do we just pretend we don't have it? Or I don't, that is quite upsetting to hear.
So you're saying there's no support out there?
For adults with autism, for new diagnoses, that's how it seems, how the doctor presented to me at my GP surgery.
Right.
So when I done a bit more research on myself, kind of, and looking at my own traits, I looked and realised that I do think I've got autism traits, but I think it's more ADHD that I am, or I have. So when I done a lot of research on that, I thought, right, that is me. I done the test. There's a test online as well. There's a test online that they do in partnership with NHS, actually. I just googled how do I know if I have ADHD. You do this little, say, 20 questions test or something like that, and basically I got over a certain percentage, whereas they say, yeah, you may want to contact your GP. This is not a diagnosis, but the traits the answers you've given, you may be on the spectrum somewhere. Yeah. So obviously I went back to my GP and did tell them that I think I have ADHD, and they have put me forward for an assessment and referred me over. Whereas their GP sent it to the wrong place first off, at CAMS in Haringey.
Right.
I contacted them. What they said is March 15th it was sent back, so the day they received it, and it's only now been
July.
June, say. So let's say the 15th of June, because I investigated what was happening, they realised it was basically just up in the air, and now they've resent it. So if it's another year, if it's like the waiting time is like a year, mine's just started again. From maybe February.
Isn't it?
Yes. And I have put a written complaint into the GP, the head of the GP, the manager of the GP surgery, because obviously for me it's not good enough. If I didn't call, I would be sitting here waiting until next year thinking, yeah, they'll be contacting me, because I just wanted some form of letter of confirmation. And that's why I didn't get any, because it wasn't even sent over, because no one had dealt with the request, should we say. So, which is, like you say, quite incompetent of the GP surgery. So yeah, now it's just waiting to see what's going to happen there.
So why is it so important to you to get a diagnosis? Is it to understand yourself better, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that, well, not that I can explain to people why I am the way I am, why I'm kind of very withdrawn, why I like to keep myself to myself. It's not because I think I'm better than people, and I don't like to make eye contact, and I'm 32, things like that. So I think it's explaining.
You've got a lot of anger inside you as well, haven't you? You would say.
Yeah, I'm very, well, when I'm on the road especially as well, my road rage is awful. Yeah, I've got a camera in my car, and when I took the memory card out and actually played it in one of my phones and heard my swearing and the way I am, this is just at someone not indicating or something like that. Like, literally, it's from 0 to 100. It's like, when it comes to rules, I think everyone should follow them.
Yeah.
So it's very mirror signal maneuver,
Yeah.
which a lot of people forget. So I'm on the road like I'm the traffic police or something, but swearing, I'm just like, bloody indicate. Well, it would be worse than that, but I'm making it mild. But yeah, my swearing is really bad. And when I realise, as in, like, I'm with my kids most of the time in the car, this is when I started to realise I'm out of control, and I need to, and speeding at one point. Like, most roads are now 20 miles per hour.
Yeah.
I'm doing like 35. For what reason? And I'm not actually in a rush. It's like I've got this kind of adrenaline need for speed. I'm just in a rush all the time. I think because my brain is very active and I'm moving a lot faster than what I should kind of be.
Yeah.
Well, living in London as well, we move fast anyway. But yeah, I'm taking it to another extent.
Do you think your brain is constantly thinking all the time, constantly busy and going round in circles? And
yes, I've always got a to-do list that is still there to do. I tick things off, and then it's like, oh yeah, I've still got that to do. Then that will come back to me. I actually write out lists as well, or I don't remember anything. This has at one point got me into arrears and like bills with a lot of things. It was just like negligence, as in like reading the letter, not fully reading it properly and just putting it down. Because I can read. it's just the attentiveness, as in I wasn't having any form of concentration, or just not realizing how important these things really are. It's never got me like evicted or anything like that. I think with that, normally because I'm exempt most of the time paying any form of rent, which is lucky. That's probably why I haven't ended up. But that was like when, before the twins were born, and they was born in 2015. So I'm more on track now with a lot of things. And just prioritized and tried to like slow down. So it's like my brain always doing something. I'm continuously busy. This is where I went on the Strengthening Families course at Markfield to try and realize prioritizing my kids and life, special time and things like that with the children, which has helped me a lot. Because obviously I was, as parents, I'm just seeing it as, oh yeah, I'm busy, I've got this to do, I need to do that. And then it comes to bedtime and it's sort of bath the kids and they're in their bed. I haven't actually spent any time talking to my kids. Just because we're in each other's presence in the same house, it's not the same as actually sitting down and talking to your child for like 15 minutes or 5 minutes, every other day or every day, depending on what time you do have. But it is really important. And it builds that connection. Your kids do want to talk to you, and they feel you listen to them, basically, that you're not too busy.
Course,
yes
you?
I did. I'm glad I went on it. And as I said, when I was on that course, every parent should basically be on the Strengthening Families course, if it was that known around.
It's a very special course.
It's really good, really good.
So what do you think will happen when you get the diagnosis? How will that make you feel?
I think it will relieve me. Hopefully they will give me some form of medication. My 12-year-old has been medicated and I've seen the change in her behaviour, so I think that's what I may need. All I can do is try. And this is why I've referred myself to all of these associations and all these places, because I know I just needed to try at least. If I don't, sort of try, I can't say I can't change. So I literally think I don't just say think, if I'm on medication that it would change me, because my mindset is that I know I need to change, so maybe I need that to help me. Because ADHD can be medicated, so maybe that is what it is. And if I don't try, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. So can you remember back when you were a child?
Yes.
What are the things? Do you see your own children in yourself as when you were a child?
Now, yes, I do. Like I say, was very erratic. I probably was labelled as a bully. Back in school, I used to fight people for other people. If my friends are having a fight with someone and they couldn't beat them up, I would go and beat them up. Then it was like, I would follow my mum everywhere, even in my grandma's house, which we went to all the time. So literally my mum would just tell me to go and play with all the other kids, like my cousins and aunties and stuff, and I would just be there following her. If she went out, I would be in the kitchen with my grandmother. So what I noticed as well, it was more adults' attention. I wasn't really fussed with kids, my siblings or my cousins and aunties and uncles. I actually used to get in trouble quite a lot because I used to fight them. So I was sort of labelled as the naughty child, should we say. In school as well, bad reports all the time. Maths, I was really bad at maths in school.
How did that make you feel?
I think that's why I was so naughty, sort of, because
did it make you feel isolated?
Yeah, out of frustration.
Misunderstood?
Yeah, because I knew, you see maths and I'm just like, oh my god, look at that. So then it will cause me to just misbehave, I guess, and do something.
Because it's avoidant behaviour, isn't it? Because if you're gonna be the naughty child, you're going to get out of doing what you don't want to do.
Exactly. Now I can go and sit outside the head teacher's office or what. And the head teacher actually really liked me, even though I was there all the time for being bad. So I would rather see maths, just do something random or something, and end up basically just trying to not do the maths, should we say. I was in trouble a lot, bad reports. My mum was called in quite a lot. I was always fighting kids. That's what it was. I was always fighting people's children. So, yeah.
And do you think because you're a girl, like you said earlier, because girls mask, don't they?
Yes.
And girls do portray ASD and ADHD quite differently to what boys do.
Yes.
And plus maybe because of your age, it was less, I don't know, I suppose it was more difficult to get diagnoses. It was, not many people understood it, did they really?
Yes, exactly, probably. I was born in 87, so obviously I think that is probably what it is. Girls are very, like you say, they mask it very well. And being verbal and, should we say, wanting to kind of fit in with people, you more, I don't know, should I say, I don't really want to use the word normal. You try and pretend that you're normal, as in, so you act like other people. And I think as well as this is what got me in trouble, by me just following what other people did, thinking it was the right thing to do or normal. Basically, as well as back in those days, you know, as they say, it's like a taboo. Who wants to be labelled as anything? More parents are like, no, not my child. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with my child. So I think for my mum, it was more denial. Because thinking back to how my behaviour was and comparing me to my other siblings, out of, say, three of us, sorry, and my aunties and uncles, I was the only one that was like the way I was, basically. Yeah. The naughty child, should we say. So.
How do you think your mum coped with it all?
Well, I think really I was at my grandma's quite a lot as well. Not just me, all of us. So she, like I say, I think it was more denial, just not wanting to believe there was something there, so you just don't address it, you just ignore it or assume they'll grow out of it, sort of thing. A lot of these generations older think you'll just grow out of it. So, but that's not true, is it?
Yeah.
As a child, you grow up with it. And without help, it sort of, you grow up and then you think, why am I like this? Why do I do this? Why do I not do things like that? Or, why am I very kind of passive aggressive or patronizing can come across? And then you start realizing things and trying to tone certain behaviors down because you don't want to come across as patronizing.
Have you got any support around you now, people that you can talk to about this and how you feel, and family or friends?
Yes, I've gained a few friends through support groups, as well as basically I've got a friend that has lived around the area for a while, and as I've started to talk to her about what I think about myself, she's started to help me with my kids as well, as being a single parent. So that's a bit of help there. But with professionals, sort of, no, I've told them I think I am. They've obviously they're meant to put me on a Stratford Webster course, I think it is. There's a course from Child Development Centre that is like another parenting course, like the Strengthening Families, which is meant to be a really good one as well. So I'm just waiting to see where I am on that waiting list. But it's just more educating myself and Googling things and speaking to everyone in these support groups and
Because I think when you did the Strengthening Families course as well, there was actually another parent on that course as well, wasn't there? Who also shared with the group that she felt that she was going through the assessment procedure to do with having ASD as well. And I think that was really good for both of you, wasn't it, to kind of share both of your experiences with each other, and it must have been really good to kind of know somebody else that was going through a similar situation, was it?
Exactly, another adult. Because obviously what it is you don't, I think what it is it's more embarrassment. As in, Like, you think it's because it's okay. No, I don't know how to put it, because when it comes to my kids, I shout to the world about their diagnoses, as in, just so that people can understand it's not the end of the world when you get a diagnosis, as in, oh, they're not a different person or a different child. It's just that they think differently or will need a bit more help in certain areas. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. So meeting now another parent, adult as well, in the same kind of situations, actually reassuring. One, I'm not the only one, and as well as to know that someone else actually has come out with it rather than bottling it up. It's like mental health with men. A lot of people just don't talk about it because it's just, well, sort of people may see it as a sign of weakness, which it's obviously not. It's better to get help than not get help and then end up in a worse situation, should we say, depression and all sorts of things just going downhill, rather than trying to lift yourself back up and get some form of assistance, should we say. It's good to talk, basically, than not talk.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
and thank you for sharing your story with us as well, because I think this will help other parents maybe going through a similar situation like you are.
Yes.
So tell me, is there anything that you do to kind of help yourself? Anything you do to care for yourself in your challenging world?
I now have a dog, so we go on little peaceful walks while the kids are at school, which is kind of my little therapy dog. He has caused Michael to say a few words, and obviously just try and sort of count to 10 when it comes to like some of the kids' behaviours. It's just some strategy of, rather than just losing it, or as I used to just shout all the time, as my 15-year-old has told me. So I try to basically prevent shouting like a mad woman all the time. And yeah, basically, like, just going on all these courses, meeting other parents, going on coffee mornings with other mums that have kids on the spectrum, explaining to them my story and stuff, and they're like, oh, and I thought I had it bad, and you've got 4 all with special needs. And I just say to them, basically, life's what you make it, and as hard as you make it for yourself, and if you think you're not going to cope, you won't cope. So you have to just tell yourself every day, you will cope, you'll get through it, have a coffee or whatever you drink, and just see it as days will get better. Yeah, it's not the end of the world, as I keep saying, and just try and see it as life's too short to basically be stressed, and try and be as happy as possible.
Yeah, that's great advice.
That's how I get through life. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me. I think you're doing an amazing job, and I wish you all the best for your journey, getting your diagnosis.
Yes.
And thanks again.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for taking the time to join me today. To find out more about what I do, visit www.specialworldtraining.com and follow us on our Facebook page, Special World Training, Instagram and LinkedIn. I believe knowledge is power and strength is in numbers. And if more people get involved in our special world, we can all make our world a better place. Join me next week for more amazing stories from the good, the bad and the ugly.